Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Black Superheroes. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. You know, we see examples every day of real-life Black excellence in our community heroes and Black high achievers in many fields. For some, an early seed of inspiration to be more and achieve more came from Black superheroes in comics. The most famous Black superhero in the world is Marvel Comics' Black Panther. The king of the technologically advanced fictional country of Wakanda became a hit movie, breaking box office records globally. Black Panther is widely recognized as the first mainstream American Black superhero. AllHipHop.com CEO Chuck Creekmur says its massive success proves Black superheroes are truly universal.
We talk a lot about the impact of Black superheroes on Black people and Black kids, but do understand that it has a positive, enriching impact on people of other races, other creeds who can see Black people in these strong and powerful positions as well.
Legendary comic artist, producer, and Milestone Media executive Denys Cowan co-created the superhero Static, aka Virgil Hawkins. The comic character became a hit animated TV series in the early 2000s and is on the list of many comic critics' top 3 Black superheroes of all time. His artistic style and creative process made Static unique and relevant starting in the early 1990s.
With Static, since we use a Spider-Man 14-year-old kid in high school, but now he's Black and now he's a blurred, and he's got some geeky likes and dislikes, and he's got friends who, like, we did the whole thing. And it worked.
Women are steadily earning their place in the world of comics. The Marvel comic superhero Storm, aka Aurora Monroe, is a member of the X-Men and a fan favorite for years. Newer on the scene is MFK, a fantasy adventure featuring Abby, a young Black girl in a magical world. The trailblazing creator, writer, and illustrator of MFK, Nilah Magruder, says opportunities are opening up, but there's room for improvement.
There are a lot more Black women and Black girls represented in comics now. So it's definitely changed from when I was a kid.
Bulletproof street smart superhero Luke Cage earned a new generation of fans when his Marvel stories were turned into a very popular Netflix series. Luke Cage had to dodge bullets and bad guys while dealing with modern-day social justice issues and stereotypes affecting Black men. Writer and Luke Cage showrunner Cheo Hodari Coker says it's time for more depth and variety in Black superheroes.
I think what's going to start to happen is you're going to see the ability to really lean into the psychological complexity.
Let's get into this with our panel and find out what inspires them. Joining me for this conversation is Denys Cowan. He's a producer and illustrator. Denys, great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much. Also with us is Cheo Hodari Coker. He's a writer and showrunner. Cheo, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Also with us is Chuck Creekmur. He's the CEO and co-founder of AllHipHop.com. Chuck, great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also with us is Nilah Magruder. She's an author, and I wrote Creative Genius, which is true.
Thanks for having me.
Chuck, the whole level, just talk with us first about the importance culturally and especially to Black children of seeing Black superheroes growing up.
I have to say, Denys Cowan is someone I really looked up to. I didn't grow up seeing a lot of Black lead superheroes because, quite frankly, I feel like it was racism, and obviously we saw things from the lens through the lens of white men. Stan Lee is another individual who I'd like to name check because I feel like Stan Lee was someone who did a great job of bringing and introducing heroes of culture, heroes that were Black and others. Black Panther is one very notable. And so ultimately, we got a few tokens. And I call them tokens because Falcon was a sidekick character initially. At least that's how I saw him as. And there were others in that same vein. So for me, I didn't see a lot of it. And I didn't think much of it as a young person. But as I grew older, it became increasingly important to see representation.
Nyla, how did you get involved in this whole field? Tell us about that.
I've been drawing since I was little, like since kindergarten. When I was in sixth grade, I had an art class, and our teacher showed us Aladdin on VHS. This was back in the 90s, way back in the day. And on the Disney VHS tapes, they always had a preview of whatever movie they were working on next. And before Aladdin, there was a preview of The Lion King. And it showed the pencil tests for The Lion King, and I was mesmerized. I knew, like, I don't know what that is, but I want to do it.
Denys, tell us about just to give us an idea of the creative process.
The creative process is different every project. When we founded Milestone Media, the creative process was, okay, we have to create a whole universe, right? Okay, how are we going to do that? So all 4 or 5 of us got into a room and just started spitballing ideas back and forth. When it's myself and I'm just working on a book, I'll just get a script and I'll read it. And I've often said this to people, you can't send me a script and say, can you read this on spec and let me know? Because my brain goes into, I have to make pictures from the things that I'm reading.
Oh, okay.
And it makes reading very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Because my brain is, he knows what I'm talking about, because my brain is constantly, if you direct anything, if you do anything, your brain is constantly slowing down, trying to make these shots.
Cheo, speak with us the importance of comics, especially in the Black community. Tell us about that.
You would rarely see Black men or women lionized in a heroic way. And particularly when you start getting into superpowers, can fly, all that kind of stuff. You know, it's interesting because I turned on Disney Plus this morning. Wonder Man got like this huge splash. And it's wonderful seeing like Yaha and, you know, the brother playing Wonder Man. And it's getting like the full center, like all the money, all the resources. Yes. It's getting center placement. Black heroes were always kind of like put in the background somewhere. I took my twin boys, they're 20 now, but back then they were probably like 8 or 9 years old. We were waiting for a movie and the trailer for Captain America Winter Soldier came on.
Mm.
And there was the moment when Anthony Mackie as Falcon is standing by the side of a building. He jumps off the side of the building and boom, flies up and he's got the wings and he's Falcon. And I just remember, and I'm trying to tear up. I remember the look on the boys, the twins' faces when they saw that. This is my grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Bertram W. Wilson. This was back when he was 24 years old. He was a Tuskegee Airman. He flew fighter squadron.
That's amazing.
When your grandfather's a fighter pilot,
superhero,
you know, a real life superhero,
fighting in a war for a country that will not give him the right to vote. That's real heroism.
Yeah,
correct.
Guts, right?
But because of him, you know, I could take or leave representation to a certain extent, because when your grandfather is like you're sitting over breakfast and he's talking about Top Gun and how like actually all the kinds of stuff you've seen Tom Cruise doing for pretend, he actually did, you know, for real. As a fighter pilot in World War II, Korea and Vietnam. You know, you don't really feel the pressure of, okay, I'm not seeing myself. But with the twins, when they saw that in terms of Falcon and that representation, I realized that if I'm able to get this Luke Cage job, there's an importance to it. Also important to me that with Luke Cage, as the, you know, adapting that to, you know, as a television show, that the history of Black people, the history of the music, that Blackness, New York, be just as an important part of the storytelling as any of the superhero stuff.
Let's get into this now with our panel. Nilah, what about the representation of women superheroes?
You know, growing up, I didn't really identify with like any media. You know, we had Storm, you know, and X-Men, but there wasn't a lot. And so I kind of grew up just assuming that, you know, stories are for other people, like Black people aren't main characters. And so even when I started to develop as an artist and a writer, I always felt very removed from what I was working on. And I've talked about this with other artists and writers of color, this phenomenon where, you know, our subject matter tends to be white, tends to be light skinned. And it was really once I got older, I kind of had to, I really started to interrogate this and ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I not using myself as subject matter? And I had to work on it. I really had to force myself to draw Black characters. And now, it feels very natural, but um, you know, like Black women in this space still struggle. You see this in animation. You don't see a lot of Black women show running or directing. In comics, we've had more of a breakthrough at Marvel, but it took 70 years for Marvel to start hiring Black women to write.
Nala brought up Storm. Like when you watch the
And
X-Men
Cheo,
movies,
explain who Storm is for our audience, please.
Storm or Aurora Monroe is a member of the X-Men, who in the movies is again kind of like a sidekick, but in the actual comics is really one of the most powerful superheroes. Like if Storm shows up, it's a problem. The movies, it's like, basically off to the side. And so that's one of the problems. Black women in society are marginalized. Black women in comic books are marginalized. And so hopefully, as with more Black female directors like Nia DaCosta, I'm hopeful that there are bigger opportunities.
Chuck, is it more of a gender thing too? Do girls read comics as much as boys?
Well, I can tell you this, as from a male perspective, I used to go to comic conventions back in the 80s, and there were no women there, no Black women at all. And through the years, it's gotten more and more. It's hard to judge who's reading because, that's a whole nother thing. But as far as the interest level, it's greatly increased now. And I mean, I wish I was young now because it seems like a future wife would be in there if I was younger. But from my perspective as a girl dad, it was really tough to have that sort of representation in front of my daughter when she was growing up because it really didn't exist.
So, my mother was born during World War II, and she grew up reading comics. I feel like if we're not seeing enough representation even now, I think that's an indication that the culture in these communities and these industries isn't really changing. We can bring Black women into comic spaces, but the culture of these industries wasn't changing. Like right now, we have more Black women superheroes than we have like visible, Black women writing for Marvel, for DC, for these bigger comic companies. Like if you're looking for Black women that are working in comics, a lot of them are on the indie level. They're doing web comics, they're doing webtoons, they're self-publishing because there is no gatekeeping that's forcing them out.
There's some Black women in animation. There's some Black women writers in animation, right?
Yeah. It's better than it was when I started.
Yes. Yes.
Like when I started, it was normal to be the only Black person on the floor. And and as a woman too, like I was interning for a storyboard intern position, and the recruiter said, just to let you know, if you get this, you're going to be the only woman in the department.
Only woman too, and the only Black woman, and the only Black person.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now that was like 15, 20 years ago. It's gotten a little better since then.
30 years ago, we started Milestone Media, and we started it to address some of these issues. No Black representation in comics, no gay representation in comics, no female representation in comics. What can we do about that? We have to do it ourselves. So we did create Static and Icon and Rocket and the Blood Syndicate and Hardware. We did all these things, but the book that really meant the most to us was Icon and Rocket. So what we were doing was writing a book about a girl superhero, leading the series, being the narrative voice. But all these dudes picking it up were buying the Icon and Rocket comic book. And they were convinced that Icon was because he did this and did that. No, buddy, you were getting everything from her point of view.
Denys, what when you're dealing with characters, do you balance? Okay, this is going to resonate with urban black audiences. This is going to resonate with blacks, or blacks may say this is fake.
I don't think in terms of the audience that way. If I'm doing it honestly, from my perspective, from what I think all these characters need, from the emotional content that I think that they need, and whatever else, that is what I focus on. I have partners who work with me who do think about all those other things and the impact that it's going to have. But I tend not to think about that kind of stuff too much because it would impede my process. Now, when it comes to black superheroes and me drawing them, they get a little bit of extra special attention only because they have not gotten that special attention before. And there are a lot of artists in our industry. There's some black artists in our industry who don't want to be pigeonholed. But personally, if you wanted me to draw Black Panther or Luke Cage or any other black superhero, I've always considered it a privilege and an honor to be able to do that. And if that's all you wanted me to do then that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it the best way we can.
Nilah, what do you think of authenticity, or is that even a consideration for you?
It's this strange catch-22 because like we have so few characters representing, say, the Black women experience, that every single one has to broadly represent the entire Black woman population. And that's a lot of pressure on, one writing team or one character. I created a character for Marvel called Spider Bite. She's a Black woman. She's a Spider-Man variant. I really leaned into writing my own experience with this character. My latest story that I wrote for her in Edge of Spider-Verse, she's eating Pocky at her computer. She's got plushies all over her room. She's just a total geek. There's so much room to be specific and still be universal in characterizing Black women.
Denys, if you were getting started right now, what would you do to try to pursue a career in producing and creating?
The path that Nilah took is probably a great path. In terms of getting noticed now. She may differ with that, but doing your own thing, publishing it on the web, taking your own time, updating it constantly, making it free, making it available to people so that they notice you and you're willing to take that hit. I think is the way to go.
Nilah, you were way ahead of the curve on that one. So
yes.
What do you say, especially to girls and young women that want to get involved in this?
I mean, I agree. Denys is right. Just start. Comics and like animation too, like these creative media, it's an arena where, to really stand out, you have to prove what you can do. Eventually these studios are going to run out of the IP that they're milking right now, and they're going to have to start looking for original stuff. And you want to be ready for that. So this is the time when you're not on deadline, you don't have a contract that you're beholding to, you don't have a boss telling you what to draw, what to write. This is the time to explore who you are as an artist and tell the stories that you want to tell.
Cheo, what advice?
If you want to be a writer and write films, you need to read screenplays, and you just got to stay at it. It's sometimes it's great, a lot of times it sucks, but you got to keep pushing forward.
I think that it's important for the younger artist generation to put their phones down, or parents tell your children to put their phones away, or whatever you got to do to help them sit and focus on the craft or their blessing, which is their gift, whatever they're gifted from the creator to do. There was a period of time when comics were questionable. Parents didn't necessarily like them, and it was a question mark beside that. Is this good for kids? Is this bad for kids? And my parents and my teachers even got together and were like, yo, if he's reading, let him read. And that expanded my mind, my vocabulary, my artistry as well. So I would say, really focus, and that leads to discipline and understanding of the the landscape.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Black Superheroes. You can watch it again and share it on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page and the free Fox Local app. Remember, use your mind, it's your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and justice for all.